Director Long or President Long, we are ready. Can you please open the session?
I would be proud to do so. I'd like to bring this 2020-21 budget hearing work session to order. We will be having a presentation from Kira Acker. No action will be taken. Kira?
Hi there. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I need to share my screen, and can everyone see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
So just to review the budget, budget development process. We've gone through probably since March, before February, late February, we started talking about it in cabinet, thinking about our needs for this last school or for this coming school year. Looking at really what our revenues projections are going to be from what we'll receive from all the different programs, and figuring out how to balance the budget from there based on those department needs from the schools and maintenance, HR, really looking at our upcoming needs for teachers and staff, and with all of those increases, what we're going to need as far as budget capacity for HR, which is the biggest one. And as you know, it's about 82% of our entire budget. So putting all those together and finding how much we have for operating costs and balancing the budget from there is really the process, and it takes months back and forth. So it's a collaborative effort. Everybody chimes in and helps us with that. So thought I'd start this off by showing you exactly where, and I'm pretty sure you've seen this this projection. Really, it hasn't changed too much. We're at that 4.7 to end the year at the projecting ending fund balance, which is a little bit less than what I showed in our last budget meeting. This does not include the reimbursements for our CARES Act money. So there's actually purchases in here for our PPEs and that kind of thing, the increases that we've seen for the closure, but not the reimbursements yet. So it is a little bit lower. It will adjust as we move forward, but it's important to know where we're going to end up this year, to know where we'll start next year with our budget. So here's just an overlook of all of our different funds that we're going to submit the budget for. So I'll start with our general fund. There you see all the way to the left there with general fund. We'll begin the year at 4.8, the 4.8 fund balance. That's the total fund balance. We've projected about 54 million in revenues and 54.3 in expenditures. So that's a loss of about $17,000 for an ending fund balance of 4.7. And I'll break all of that down in the general fund later in the presentation. So I just wanted to give you the quick overview of the other funds. So ASB, it's really hard to know what we're going to be able to do out in the schools. So that 223,000, that is lower than what we've usually projected in revenues, but want to provide enough capacity if we are able to utilize our ASB funds. So I figured we'd spend about 315,000, which is a loss of 92,000. So that really is a projection. Hopefully the kids can come in and make some extra money, and that will be more than what we expected. But they're in debt service. There's really no activity. That $500 in revenue is just interest. So moving over to capital projects, we're going to see a lot of changes in capital projects. We'll end this year at $450,000 after some of our projects are finished this summer. And the revenues, that 5.8 that you see, that includes the first collection in 2021. That'll be our collection in April for our first capital projects collection. The expenditures of 1.5, that includes capacity to purchase the rest of, or to purchase the condominium agreement outright if we do sell the CSB. So as you know, in a budget, we need to have those expenditures budgeted, but not necessarily the revenues. So I don't have the sale of the CSB. We're really hoping to sell the CSB to be able to buy out the entire condominium agreement from the college. But I've showed here just the expenditures and not necessarily the revenue. So ending fund balance would be 4.7, but if we sell the CSB, it could be up to, it would be up over 5.7. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And then the TVF, which is Transportation Vehicle Fund. There really won't be much going on there. We usually have enough capacity to purchase a bus or two based on the depreciation that we have received, but we only have about 50,000 left over after we end this year. So that's a summary of all the different funds and kind of what I've projected and what I thought moving forward with those. So jumping into the general fund, it was built on a budget based on, the budget was based on enrollment of 3472. So that is it's about a 1% decrease, an additional 1% decrease from the decrease that we saw last year. We budgeted 3590 and saw 3525 that came in. So, you know, this is a really, really difficult time to judge and to know how many kiddos we're going to have, how many kids are going to show up in the beginning. We're doing the best we can, being very, very conservative with our numbers. And that there it shows the 350 of the 3472 have moved to Seaview, and now there's about 100 more. I made this presentation last week and we posted it. Now there's an additional 100 of over what was planned. So we've had a lot of students join Seaview, and so that's, we just don't know what to expect. So because of that, we have a lot of capacity built into the budget. So there's about $1.2 million in unfilled certificated positions. So about 11 positions at this point that we're holding off on until we see the whites of their eyes or see them online. And so that's, that's that cushion that just based on our enrollment, we have not committed those contracts of the 1.2 million. Additionally, there's about 500,000 in various classified positions that we would be able to, we haven't offered contracts to just yet. That's usually after the first of the year when they're 1 year onlys. And so we've started those, we would start those contracts, but those are built into the budget of those expenditures you saw. The 350,000 in levy equalization, there was talk months ago when we first started the budget season that that we would be losing the levy equalization. And we haven't heard anything lately about that. So that 350,000 isn't built into the revenues. So if that shows up, then that's an additional 350,000 that we weren't expecting. And then I also figure about 600,000 will be left moving into next year of the CARES Act reimbursement. So of that 1.2, we'll still have about half of it to continue use for reimbursements. Some could be some of those teaching positions. It's just whatever is needed because of the closure is included in that CARES Act money. So And the one thing I didn't mention is those revenues also include that 10% lunch price increase that you approved back in June. So that is also built into this budget. So moving forward, just to break down the different revenues, the different sources of revenues that we receive 79% of state revenues, which is about 42.5. You can see them listed there at the bottom. 42.5 million in state revenues. We're expecting about 5.6 in local taxes, and just under $1 million there in local non-tax. That will be a little bit lower if we don't, if we don't collect fees, if we're not in school. But I have even dropped that down from previous. I did lower that a little bit just to be on the safe side that those revenues weren't available. And then again, there at the bottom, when you see the federal revenues at 5 million, it's about 9% of our overall revenues that we receive. So, and then moving into general fund expenditures, our certificated salary expenditures is 42%. So our teachers make up about 42% of the overall expenditures, classified about 18%, and then our employee benefits at 24%. Purchase services is at 10, and then supply and materials at 4. So we did a lot of work when we were balancing this budget to bring down those material, the MSOCs, the supplies and operating costs. We brought that down significantly, and we're going to be really watching that this year. That capital outlay that you see down at the bottom, and I'll address this a little bit later in our levy expenditure plan, it's higher than it would be, but that is the $200,000 that we need to continue our Chromebook one-to-one initiative. So that's available, that's capacity that's available for us to be able to continue adding to that technology for our students. Are there any questions up till now? How are you guys doing out there?
Fine.
Okay.
Looking good.
Awesome. Great. Marty, is there anything you'd like to add, or?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so moving into our 4-year projections, as you know, the state has, it's been a few years now, I think this is the 3rd year where they've asked us to provide a 4-year budget projection where we see us going over the next few years. So keep in mind, these are projections if we do nothing at all. So if we don't work to balance the budget, if we don't make to attrition or adjust the budget, this is what it would look like. And there are assumptions, quite a few assumptions moving forward through this. So we've heard talk about the feds cutting our overall state budget, or state and the federal government are going to decrease the budget by 4 to 6% for education, which is a 2 to 3% decrease for our district budget, is about $1 million each year in lost revenue. So those losses are reflected in that 4-year budget, which is again, it's not anything that we've just heard and they've speculated that. So I did add that in there just to be on the safe side. The other pieces are the salary increases of 4%, where 2% of cost of living and then the 2% for step and column. Those items are as high. It's as high as it would go. So wanted to just look at that based on our different bargaining and IPD possibilities, and I think classified salary increases would be at 3% in my calculations. And then, of course, we see the decrease in regionalization. This year it was 6%. Next year, 2020 will be at 5%, and it'll continue to lower. 2021 at 4%, and 22, 23 at 3%. We haven't heard word that will change, so we're continuing to project based on that. And then the AV growth, where we're at 5% for next year. I'm anticipating zero growth for next year and the year after. So as you can see, without us doing anything and not working to balance that budget like we did this year, it will continue to go down and eat into our fund balance significantly. It's, you know, we will continue to work to that to make sure that we can, you know, we trimmed about, well, just a little over $1 million in capacity this year to get to the that net loss of only 17,000. So it was a lot of, you know, collaborative work to do that, and we'll continue to do that moving forward. Because if we don't, you can see what's going to happen if we do continue to, with all those assumptions that I provided, if we continue to move through that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Carrie, in that projection, for the 2021 all the way to 2023 budgets, did you project, did you add it and build in the levy equalization or not?
The levy equalization is, no, it's not, it wouldn't be included in that.
Okay, I just wanted that. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Is there any other questions? There's a lot of numbers there, I know.
I want to add to this. So this new concept around it's new for the last couple of years with the 4-year budget projections. I want to remind the board that's been on the board for a couple of years, you know, this is a challenging concept. There's a lot of assumptions that are made. And, you know, if you remember the first year that we anticipated this 4-year budget, we were, you know, multi-million dollars, you know, $8 to $10 million in the hole with regards to end of 4-year budget. So again, I want to emphasize the fact that this is a representation that if the district's assumptions are correct, and if the district doesn't do anything to balance the budget, this could be the result of that. So simply put, you know, these numbers compound off one another. And so, you know, we're looking, if our assumptions are correct, and that's a if, we're looking at approximately $1 million of reductions a year over the next 3 years to balance the budget, to maintain the minimum fund balance that the board desires.
Okay, and so then with our levy spending plan, that's also something that we share with the with OSPI and with the board, and really try to be open with our taxpayers as far as exactly what we spend that money on and what those funds go to that are so important for our kids. OSPI actually now has us present a plan to them and let them know exactly how much we're going to be spending our levy on, which I think is a wonderful thing to do for transparency so that everybody understands what they're paying for. So here we are with the AV growth of 5%. We're expecting about 5.6 million. Of that, 2.7 million for student programs. Student programs includes nurses, counselors, music teachers, mental health support, our school navigator, all of those extra supports for students other than, well, music teachers, but, you know, other than in the classroom, there are a lot of supports that go into that just aren't fully funded to the degree that we need for our students. Athletics and extracurricular is there at 1.1, so that includes after school activities, clubs, transportation for athletic programs, that kind of thing. That's all encompassed in that 1.1. There's that technology of that $200,000 that I talked about needing to support that one-to-one Chromebook program, and that's something that we'll just need to continue to, you know, to support and put a little money towards every year, so that we stay up with technology for the students to have that capability. Special education, Pam has worked tirelessly at shrinking that number. That's the difference of what the state and federal dollars gives us. Anything over what they receive, we have to spend in our local levy dollars. So I don't know if you remember last year, I think it was 750,000, and before it was over almost a million, maybe a little bit over a million. So now we're down to 320,000, and Pam has done an amazing job at getting that down so that we're not using as many levy funds as we have been. So and the other staff that
Chair, I want to add to that.
Sure.
And that doesn't represent a reduction in our SPED commitment, the special education commitment to students and staff. That represents really an increase in funding from the state level and Pam's good work around the safety net process. So those two combine to really reduce our out-of-pocket cost, out-of-levy pocket cost, around the field of special ed.
Thank you. That's a good point. I never meant to make it sound like it was a cut in any of our support for the program, but it's, the funding model, they've changed that so that we're receiving more for students that aren't inclusive, and that is also due to, those revenues and the way that Pam has built her program has really helped that and helped the budget as well. So she's been just enough about her work. It's really neat to see that. So the other staff, that is also teachers outside of the prototypical model and operational staff. So any of our custodians or maintenance grounds, warehouse people, that they're all in that other staff. So that's what makes up our 5.6 million of what we use for our local levy funds. And again, I just here in this slide, I broke down exactly how much we receive from different areas for special education, and then what we need to offset that with our local levy funds. So that safety net has increased and grown. We really have to put, Pam and her folks have to put a lot into that to get that number higher, and she's worked hard at getting that done. So are there any other questions about anything I've presented tonight or the budget moving forward?
So Kira, in the levy spending plan, what's your projection of other staff? How many people do you think that includes?
It would be hard to say exactly how many people. I would say maybe a handful of maintenance, maybe half a dozen maintenance, or part of their FTE. It's hard to say exactly how many. Is that what you're asking? How many people?
Yeah, just about approximately how many people are we talking about in the other staff?
Yeah, I would suggest that we run a number, Director Kelly, and we'll get that number to you rather than guess. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important as we move forward, looking at that million every year, you need to really start looking at that other staff, and then what is the prototypical model look like? I mean, how much are we over it?
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I can share those numbers and get exact numbers for you. I don't like to throw out numbers and have it not be accurate. So I'll provide that for sure.
Kara, it's when we talk about that other staff, we're anticipating a larger need for cleaning staff for next year. Is that correct? Has that been built into this?
Yes. So additional staff can actually be reimbursed through the CARES Act money.
Okay.
So yeah. So using the staff that we have currently, and then being able to offset that with that 600,000 that I shared earlier.
Okay.
So that would not be included in that 1.1. Those are just contracts and benefits of the people we currently have staffed.
Okay. Thank you.
We do have some extra time built into the HR budget. We have, extra time and overtime built into the capacity. So there is some of that in there, but it's not specifically for additional cleaning for COVID.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board or comments from our superintendent?
I have just a couple of clarifications.
Katie?
Kira, this is Katie. Hi. There was just a couple acronyms. Like, if you could remind me, on your slide, the projection slide, it said AV, and then on a different slide, you had a TVF.
Kira,
That's right
and
on the bottom of that one.
President Long and Kira, I muted your mics in hopes of clarifying Katie's audio, so you may have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Was
So
Katie, was your answer, did you get an answer for that?
No, I'll provide the answer. The AV stands for assessed valuation. The county assessed valuation, our tax rate at $1.50 multiplied by the assessed valuation gives us our levy collections or our capital collections. And TVF stands for Transportation Vehicle Fund. Those are funds allocated to the district directly from the state of Washington that are earmarked only for transportation services. And that's through ridership for students to and from school. That also includes bus depreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Are we good to go? Kara, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. You always make it palatable. And we thank you
so
for
much.
that. And I know that you have put a lot of work, and the whole staff has put a lot of work into this budget, and we're just going to keep our fingers crossed that it happens this way and that we can go with the balanced budget. And I thank you for your work.
Thank you, Ms. Sandy. I
Could
appreciate it.
someone, excuse me, could someone tell me about the time right now? What are we seeing? 7:01? Okay, well then we need to move into our regular meeting. Is everybody ready for that? Marty?
Probably have
Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay. In the meeting of the Thursday, August 13th, 2020 meeting of the Port Angeles School District Board of Directors regular meeting will start. I welcome the board members. We had a little trouble at the beginning getting us all together, but I can see you now and I can hear you now, and I'm glad to see all of you and welcome you back. We've just had a budget hearing. No action was taken. It was a work session for the board. So I want to call this to order, and I'd like for Christian to. Christian? Hello?
Yes. Yep. Thank you, Sandy. Good evening. As the moderator of the Port Angeles School District remote board meeting, I would like to welcome you to the August 13th, 2020 Board of Directors board meeting via Zoom. This meeting is being presented remotely for the Board of Directors and the public. Items to be mentioned before we begin is to note that this meeting is open to the public. However, tonight we will focus primarily on the routine business of the district. I also would like to note that tonight's meeting is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board.docs through our district website. According to Board Policy 1400, the community comments portion of the agenda is an opportunity for members of the audience to make statements to the board regarding non-agenda items. Agenda items will be addressed as listed in the agenda. If you wish to share comments, please use the Q&A button located at the bottom of the Zoom conference window. Submit a brief summary of your non-agenda item or the correlating agenda item number, along with your name and wait to be called on. When it is your turn to speak, your name will be called and your mic will be enabled. Before making your comments, please state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes to speak, after which time your mic will be turned off. Video will not be enabled during your time. If you do not have a mic, please instead email your comments to the executive assistant to the superintendent at jwilson@portangelesschools.org. Please keep your comments as brief as possible to enable others to speak. Avoid repeating others' comments. If someone has already offered your opinion, please state your agreement without repeating the comment. Accusations, foul language, other verbal abuse will not be tolerated. If you do so, you will be asked to refrain from using such language. If you continue to use inappropriate language, your mic will be turned off. If you have any concerns about individual district employees or specific complaints that require administrative response, please contact the superintendent directly. Thank you. Madam President, back to you.
Thank you so very much. 3.02 is roll call, and I see that all our directors are here tonight. We always begin our meeting with the flag salute, so if you'll join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Director Kelly.
Thank you, President Long. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Clam tribes. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you, Sandy. That brings us to agenda approval. Do I hear from the board?
Looks great.
Everybody okay? Any problems?
Good.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Could I hear someone move the consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda as presented.
Director Wright,
Second.
seconds.
It was moved by Director Kelly and seconded. I'm sorry, I don't know by whom.
Director Wright.
Director Wright, thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, no? Okay. That brings us down to board correspondence, 6.01. Jenny?
Okay, the only board correspondence, and since the last board meeting was a hard copy of the 2020 plan.
Okay. And everybody has a copy of that, I'm sure. All right, that brings us to teaching and learning reports, 7.01 technology report. Mr. Blauser.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board.
Thank you.
I'd like to quickly run through the report that I assume that you all have in front of you. If you'd like me to share it, I could certainly do that as well. But just in lieu of time here, I'd like to go through quickly and let you know the few big items that we attacked last year. We moved the district office from downtown up to Lincoln Center in the summer last year in order to start school in September with the district office in a new location. We had 3 ransomware attacks that took us by surprise and caused an extreme amount of damage that we dealt with through the year. Our first was at noon on the first day of school. Our second was the first day off for winter break. And then we had a final one in February that I think we learned enough information from that attack to plug some security holes that I think are keeping us a little safer now. We moved to a remote learning plan in March very quickly to try and get not only learning capabilities for folks at home, but also for all of our business to function remotely as well. So it was a big transition for everyone, and technology did what we could to make that as easy and painless for folks as possible. We also upgraded to Windows 10 this last year. We have a handful of machines out there that are still Windows 7. That was part of our vulnerability with our earlier ransomware malware attacks. So having that upgrade completed district-wide is very important to us and is very close to being done. I would say we're less than 20 machines out there still that need to be upgraded, and we probably did 200 over this last year. Well, since February, really. And we also helped to bring the new school CView online, and so that is now up and running. I would like to take just a moment and introduce the folks that are with my department. And I'll do that by saying that we have 4 positions that support technology district-wide. One is a technology support technician. We have 2 people in that role. Those folks are going from classroom to classroom and setting up projectors and working with staff to make sure they have the resources they need to teach. Those 2 people are very busy. They're excellent employees for us. That's Corey Johnson and Sharon Ganji. They do a bulk of work for us that is really unbelievable. Christian Snow is his title for us is web design and technology support technician. He's a split position, which means half of his position goes into web design and half of his position goes to support various items. He does a lot with our Chromebooks and Google infrastructure, and is also very busy. You heard from him earlier tonight, and he's doing this meeting as an example of the fantastic job that he does for us here at the district. We also have a network support technician. That's Kurt Lorenzen. He took the place of a retiree last January and has been in that position doing a great job for us, was key in trying to restore all of our corrupt data when we had the ransomware. And he sat here at the technology center, put in at least an 80-hour week twice this year doing that restoration of data and bringing our servers back up online. And he is a fantastic person to work with that is great under pressure. And when we have to deal with those emergencies, he's right on it. But as a network support technician, he's supporting all of our servers and all of our network infrastructure district-wide. That was done by 2 people, but because of some budget issues, we have not been able to fill one of the positions. So again, he is one that's running really quickly and juggling things as well. And then of course there's me. I'm the director of educational technology, and I do a lot of planning, budgeting, and filling in where I can for the other folks. If you've got the report there in front of you, you'll see that we have a bulk of devices that we support. That number grows every year considerably, and we are just put that in there to let you know the types of things that we're doing and trying to support for people. We mentioned, or Kira mentioned, Chromebooks in her report. The device replacement schedule that is part of my report here also reflects that same $200,000 she's talking about. We're looking to try and create a 5-year replacement cycle for our Chromebooks. The Chromebooks are currently coming in at about $225 a piece, and then we have a $25 license we have to put on them to add them to the Google domain. And to replace those, to replace 20% of that fleet, we're looking at about $197,000 a year. And so that's that $200,000 that Kira was talking about. We have other avenues we use for PC replacements that are much less expensive for us, but they're used devices and are here on campus a little bit easier for us to support. It's hard to do used devices in the Chrome world because we really need the long battery life that they come with. And after they're a few years old, they start to lose that battery life. So we don't really want to do a used a used replacement for those. And then we've got the Port Angeles School District websites, which we have one for each school. We added one this year for Seaview. They have grown in their complexity and their view that Christian works very hard on. I think he does an amazing job with the way that they look and keeping them looking current and rotating content through there. And again, he's doing that on a half-time position. So I just want to make sure that it's recognized, the work that we're doing there and the growth of the amount of data that's going there. Over the last 5 years, our websites have grown in the amount of content and how regularly we're updating it, quite a lot. Our technology budget allows us to have a little bit of money left over to do some of our own upgrading and maintaining. This year, I had planned to replace PCs with some used PCs. That did not come through, so I expect about $30,000 of our technology budget will be returned back to the district, with hopes that we'll be able to get those set of machines next year. But that's a plan every year, and it just didn't come through this year because when we went to purchase, there was all this COVID stuff coming on, and we just didn't have the capability to buy anything that was used at a reasonable price. We make use of that bit of money that we get left over year to do a lot within the district. And one of the ways that we can do that is through a federal program called E-rate. The E-rate program will fund 70% of our hardware that we purchase that will support students connecting to the internet. So with that money this year, we are purchasing UPSs, so uninterruptible power supplies. We're spending about $16,000 on uninterruptible power supplies that will go in as core pieces of our infrastructure. They're going to live in our distribution facilities, which are areas where we have switching equipment that connect our phone system and computers to our network. And with those UPSs in there, it, one, protects our equipment against power spikes or power problems, but it also gives us a time period where our phones stay online when the power goes out district-wide. So there are some functions there that are safety functions, and I'm very happy to have that new equipment come in. It'll be replacing equipment that's been in those closets for over a decade. So it'll be very nice to have that equipment. It'll make me feel a little bit better, sleep a little better at night. And then for next year, we're looking at doing some Ruckus upgrades. We have a Ruckus wireless network, and we have about 500 access points. All of those access points are managed through a central device that's called a controller, and our controller is end of life the end of this year. So we're looking to spend some of our E-rate money to replace that. And I'm also hoping to have some phone system work done. We have a Cisco phone system here on campus that we don't work on very often, and we have a contractor that we work with to make sure that when we do any major work, it's done correctly and is a positive outcome. And so that's one that I think we'll spend some money on. And then I just have a little brief at the end of my report there. I have a brief write-up of what the malware infections were like district-wide, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. That just was a ton of work and an opportunity for us to test our backups. We actually took our systems down to the ground and installed from scratch, and then brought things back from backup tape, from external backup tape. So we practiced that twice this year. The first time we did not wipe everything out and restart, long story, but the second 2 times we did, and it was a great proof of concept for our backups. And I'm happy to say that I feel our backups are reliable and can bring us back from the very worst case scenario. So that's my report. Are there any questions for me tonight?
Board?
Jared, I think you did a wonderful, fabulous report, and I think thank you and your staff for all the work that you do on behalf of not just students and staff, but for the board too, because you spend a lot of time helping us get through some difficult times sometimes, and I really do appreciate that. And I do agree with you that then we need to have another position back in that department, especially as we go down this road with technology. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Director Kelly. And I would like to maybe just tag on that and say that we're really happy to be here and, one, be working, but two, the type of work we do is really supporting the community right now. And myself, I'm part of a team that really is happy to be moving forward in a positive way in this terrible time. So thank you for that.
Jared, I appreciate everything that you all do. Being just absolutely ignorant of technology, I appreciate all your help that you help the board with, plus everything that you do for the children and for their parents. And this has been an absolutely unbelievably hard year. And I know that we've got some times ahead of us with on-site learning and off-site learning that will probably test your staff, and we're glad you're there, and it makes us feel very secure. So tell them thank you, please, from the board.
I will pass that on.
Any other comments? Okay. Thank you, Jared. Very good report. Let's move now to Seaview Academy upgrade. And okay, thank you. I believe that's Mr. Lisk that's going to talk about that. Chuck?
I'm going to get us
Are you
started.
with us?
I think Cindy Crum is going to come in and finish it off.
Chuck Lisk?
I'm here. Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. So,
Okay.
all right. So, as you remember, last time, a few months ago, came before the board, kind of giving the end of the year report where we got up to about 50 students last year, had 1.5 teachers. We did hire 2 teachers at the end of the year, knowing that we would continue to hire as it grew. We actually haven't hired anybody from outside. We've been transferring people because we've gone from 50 to 100 to 150 to 250. And today's number at 4:30 was 551 students at Seaview Academy. About 10 of those are outside the district, and about 6 or 7 of them are coming back from WAVA or homeschool. And the rest are students that have joined them from the other elementaries, middle and high school. So currently, as of today, we had 200 and, there we go, 315 elementary kids, 97 middle school students, and 139 high school students for the 551. So a nice spread there. In order to make that happen with about a 1:35 ratio, we now have 28 teachers that have transferred over from other buildings, and we've balanced out throughout the district, working with Scott Harker and the PAEA staff. We've accommodated staff members who have informed us that they need accommodations through the pandemic and things coming up, and then we've used volunteers. There's been a couple of involuntary transfers just because we needed more teachers at one elementary to another. Like you heard Mr. Brewer say, and I think in Kira's report, we have 11 openings. We still have 11 openings. We're being able to fill everything from within and just balance out. So to be able to help the budget that way. Along with that, we have now switched to a full-time secretary, because you imagine Jennifer Cox is trying to do that and the rest of her job. So she is now the secretary register for Seaview Academy. She's been doing a fantastic job answering all those parent questions and convincing, and not convincing, but sharing the difference between the programs and why they should stay here and not go to WAVA or K-12. Can't say enough about how good a job she's been doing. Since then, we have temporarily moved the Lincoln High School secretary down to the central office so she can do both the Lincoln High School jobs, since there's not any kids there right now, and help us out at central office. We work with the secretaries union to make that happen along the way. And just to let you know, we haven't gained a lot of funds, but by these students not leaving and going to WAVA and K-12 and other situations they could have, we've saved probably $4.7 million that would have been leaving the district otherwise. So with that, looking forward to the differentiated instruction they're going to provide. And those 28 teachers have started to go through a training process. And as Cindy will explain here in just a second, that not only do that, but we not only have to get them trained, they have to meet with all 551 families and create the individual learning plan before the first day of school, or we do not get any funds for the first month of school along the way. And with 550 kids, you can imagine it's quite a sum. So these teachers are working hard, and so are the coaches. Coco Carlson has been fantastic at providing the training along with the other coaches. So that's where we're at as far as recruiting and balancing and things that way. And Cindy's going to inform you a little bit here about what's been happening training-wise.
Good evening, and thanks for having us tonight. We just, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we met with 16 of the teachers, and as we were meeting, families were being added to Seaview, and we quickly knew we needed to organize another training because of the amount of information. So this 3-day training with ALE, the alternative learning experience, comes its own set of, RCWs and rules and WACs and procedures. And I know if you've been on the policy committee, you know that those things don't disappear in COVID. And so it's not just been looking at how we're going to enroll families and how they're going to meet with families and what that phone call looks like. What does that first meeting look like? It's what does the paperwork look like, and the written student learning plan is what drives the FTE and the funding. So it's really important that we make it a priority in helping those teachers learn that, and then at the same time getting them to we're an Odysseyware and Edgenuity platform. Odysseyware is going to be the main platform for the kids in grades 3 through 6, and then Edgenuity, and then in the middle school we can use both Edgenuity and Odysseyware, and then for 9 through 12 we have chosen Edgenuity for a platform. Pardon?
Hello?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we met we did webinars. The platform provided us webinars so that teachers could begin to see how to enroll students and choose courses, and then with those courses add those to the student learning plan. So that was really good work that Coco provided for them. She's been doing it since about November, so she's had a lot of practice. We were also able to put in front of them the weekly contact, the monthly reviews, and then we were also able to look at what would it look like to call a family, and how do you meet with families, and what are the important things that we want to talk about, and make sure that we are not only providing them with some academic support, but with that social and emotional at this time, and also other needs. So we talked about support for online students and the support in the community and in the district. We also looked at grade levels, grade bands, and the needs of those different grade levels and grade bands, and then the expertise of our teachers. We look forward to August 24th, 25th, and 26th, where we will actually have live training from Edgenuity and Odyssey, where we're going to have to break up in at least 2 different rooms to train all of our staff. We will continue in those 2 trainings to work on student learning plans, and by then we're hoping that they have contacted the families. We will be getting the list of the families to teachers tomorrow. We're trying to do that as quickly as possible. They're really excited and anxious to start calling them. It's been it's a challenge because we want one teacher to serve as many of the same kids in the same family as possible, but there are needs of certain families that require special ed, and it's also hard for a kindergarten teacher who has to do WA kids to also take on some other grade levels and until at least the end of October. So it's also hard for a kindergarten teacher to serve high school. So we're sorting all of that out and trying to make our parents have the best way to relate and build relationships with their teachers. And so after, teachers are right now working on contacting families, and then we will take the families that we haven't been able to contact, and we'll continue to look at those and have that feedback and communication with those teachers. We'll probably have around 8 or 10 teachers that we'll train next Wednesday. Coco and I will do a condensed 1 day, maybe 1.5 day training to get them up to speed and to give them their families as well. So do you have any questions?
Board? Questions?
Fabulous job, team.
I'm
Yeah.
amazed.
I was going to say, I just have a question. So, for example, you have a child who's at Seaview, a 9th grader who wants to take Spanish. How is that going to integrate? Are they going to take it? Is there going to be somebody on the Seaview team that can support that child through their Spanish class, or is that something that the high school Spanish teachers would have to be pulled in for?
Yeah.
We're working on that right now because we did have several kids taking Spanish and French last year with Coco and every other subject that she did from grades 3 through 12. And we would simply do the best we can to find a tutor that would be able to do that. We're working with the high school, middle school now and looking at their master schedule. And if we can steal away a period of time for a Spanish teacher to be part of the Seaview Academy to do just that.
Good. Excellent. Are there any other questions or comments? You all have a job cut out for you. Thank you so much for all your planning And
Second
all the
school
new
district.
teachers training. Oh my goodness, what a job. This is a busy time for
It is.
Chuck.
I said it's the second
Okay.
biggest school in the district right now and growing daily.
That's amazing that we've gone from 30 to 450. That's amazing.
And the last I counted,
Well, we wish you well. Everybody's real excited in the community. Cindy?
I think one other thing is the last I counted, and that was Friday, we had about 20 students who were not in our district last year that were either homeschooled or had been in another district and chose to come back or chose ours. So that is good news, and I'm hoping that grows. And that was one of the reasons that we chose to look into this last year before COVID, was to look at the number of families that had left our district to go online. So we're hoping to continue that mission and vision to really create a quality program that families are going to feel good about when this is all over. Because when I talk with them, some of them are very torn. They love their schools, but they also know that this is a time where they're going to choose something that fits their family. So thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. And we will continue to keep you updated.
Good.
Yeah, I
We
would love
look
to call
forward
out,
to that.
I'm sorry, I just was going to call out Marty and Chuck for sort of already having this plan going. I mean, before all of the COVID started, this was already in the works. And I feel like I just appreciate that sort of forward thinking that they bring to this district. So
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And
Chuck is working
I
really
want
hard,
to
so.
say that I appreciate the choice this gives to our parents and our students. I think that's we couldn't have found a more perfect time to start this. So thank you again, and good luck to you and to all the teachers. We appreciate you. Okay, let's move on to action items on the agenda now. Item 8.01, approval of the first reading of policy 1009, Code of Ethics for Board of Directors to Board of Directors Code of Governance. Cindy, would you talk about this for a moment, please?
So first of all, I'd like to give recognition.
Cindy?
Yes, I'm talking.
Can you all hear me, or can
you guys hear?
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, I want to give special thanks to Jennifer Spurline for all the work that she helped me with. Jennifer started the process. We agreed that she would look at it first. We put it all together, and then I went back. And then I want to thank Jenny Wilson for going to get the WASDA 1000 series of policy governance, so that we could look and compare what our policies look like compared to what the model policies look like from WASDA. So what we've tried to do is try to kind of line up as we move down this road, so that future boards can see the updates that and the numbers that line up with the same policies that we have. So this is a first reading, so I'd love to hear input from the board. I guess I will make the motion to move it forward.
Do I hear a
Yeah,
second?
it's on high definition.
Okay, discussion. Board, hello?
I just have a grammar issue in the first set under 1 with the G. You have conducting, ensuring, respecting, adopting, promoting, working, and then upholds. If we could change that to upholding, I'm into like
I know.
all the English teachers know what I'm talking about. So that was really, I agree with the thoughts behind this, and I'm hopeful that we get a good ethics policy going here.
Okay, any other comments? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Katie? Aye. Opposed?
That's an aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Director or President Long, can I
Yes.
provide a reminder to the community in the room at this time? If
Yes.
there are items on the agenda this evening that you wish to speak to by way of board action 8.01 to 8.05, please put your desire to speak to the board in the Q&A section at the lower section of your screen. And you will be asked to provide the content of your question as well as your name. So again, if you wish to speak to any of the items 8.01 to 8.05 and or 9.01 community comments, please use the QA button below. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to 8.02, approval of the removal of policy 1010, operating principles for board directors, and renaming and replacing the first reading of policy 1620 from board superintendent relations to board superintendent operating protocols. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve it.
Director Matherin, second.
Okay. Discussion. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Abstentions? Thank you. 8.03, approval of RFP for Chromebooks.
I make the motion to approve the RFP. Director
I'll
Kelly.
second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Abstentions? Thank you. 8.04, approval of 2020-21 classified salary schedule.
Director Matherin, move this.
Do I hear a second?
Director Kelly will second.
Thank you. Discussion. Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Abstentions? Thank you. And that brings us to the highlight of this evening, 8.05, approval of Port Angeles School District 2020-21 reopening plan and district reopening plan resolution 1920-17. Let me say before I turn this over to the superintendent that I hope that we have a large audience tonight who are listening to this. We are not going to be answering questions tonight, but we will be taking comments, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. So what we're going to do first is to allow Superintendent Brewer to show us the plan, and then we'll hear comments, and then we will look at the resolution. The board will. With that going, Superintendent Brewer.
Thank you, President Long and fellow board members. Appreciate the opportunity to bring this out this evening. Before we get started tonight, I do want to show appreciation to a number of folks. The individuals that have contributed to the plan that we share with you this evening are probably better part of 100 individuals that have participated in this process in some capacity. So we want to, I definitely want to go on record to thank each individual for their work in the creation of this plan. I think there's been a lot of time and effort invested in this. I do want to preface this work as this has not been the most gratifying work of my 31 years in education, but I think we can work together this year and make the 2020-2021 school year a phenomenal success if we continue to work together as we've shown this summer. So next page, please. So I'm not going to read this this evening, but in the plan, and our plan is posted, will be posted on our website tomorrow morning. Also, there's a plan on board docs that community members can read through. It's a 39-page plan. I do encourage each individual here this evening to read through the plan thoroughly, to have an understanding of our plan, so that moving forward we can exercise in good faith. So this plan really prioritizes, in my opinion, student, staff, and community safety, all while offering quality education in a new and fluid environment. And when I say new and fluid environment, that's very much a part of this work. We have been working better part of 6 weeks on this plan, and we're making edits and modifications to this plan up to the deadline, the 24-hour deadline prior to this meeting this evening. And so it most certainly is a fluid environment and a very new environment for public education. But I, for one, know that this organization is up to the task. Next page, please. Continue. So our guiding principles, this work started last early summer. Guiding principles, please. So this work started in the early part of the summer, and we pulled together a large school district work group. We surveyed parents. We also had a parent forum or a community forum, and the guiding principles that I share with you tonight have continued to be at the forefront of our conversations. Lead with care and compassion, focus on student safety, ensure equity for all families and staff, create safe and healthy environments for students and staff, which is a top priority of this plan, and maximizing student learning in our buildings. That has been our core principles in development of this work. So OSPI, in their reopening guidance document that came out, I believe it was June 8th, their commitments and our priorities really align. Support students furthest from educational justice. We simply have to have a plan that helps all of our students, regardless of their life circumstances or living conditions, to make sure that we can balance that playing field as public education is known for. We need to prepare for the health and safety in 2021. I'm going to stress to the board tonight, and also the community in this room, the health and safety guidance, not guidance, the health and safety requirements that school districts are required to include in their planning efforts are significant. We have made significant investments in PP&E, but beyond that, we have significant changes in just routines that are usually pretty normal within a school. And we'll speak to some of that this evening. But at the forefront of this work is the health and safety of our staff, our students, and our community. Number 3 is invest in connectivity and hardware. I'm really excited to announce that we have made a substantial investment in our hardware, and come the beginning of this next school year, we will have Chromebooks allocation to nearly, if not all, students across our district, to be assigned just very similar as a textbook. And so with working in the 21st century and working potentially remotely or in a distance manner, we knew we simply had to make this investment, and this district has stepped up to do so. We continue to work on the connectivity as it relates to Wi-Fi options. We have Wi-Fi options across our district. We have bus Wi-Fi options, but we're working with partnerships. Port Angeles Education Foundation and the school district have started some work around funding connectivity solutions for families that may need that. We're working with a state agency. In fact, Washington OSPI in the state of Washington are pursuing an opportunity for all students that qualify for free and reduced lunches to have connectivity for the 2021 school year. We will continue to be a leader in this work and problem solve to try to diminish some of the connectivity issues that we had last year. One of the key changes with our plan this year is with the allocation of Chromebooks. There is an opportunity within the Chromebook technology to sync it up when it connects to Wi-Fi capabilities. And when that sync happens, all of the materials that a student would need in his or her Google Classroom will be uploaded to their Chromebook. They can then take that Chromebook home and work offline. And when they come back to connectivity, it will connect up to the Google Classroom once again and upload those materials. So I think that's a really big step in the right direction for us. The key is to provide some connectivity, and then the ability to work offline is a significant movement forward for our district. And leverage local expertise and provide training. This is an important one. With regards to a number of initiatives that we're working on in our district. Our core values this year, what we're really working on this year is an educational delivery model that works, not just for some families, but all families. We're working on social emotional learning built within that platform. We simply can't, we can't avoid working with the social emotional needs of our staff and also our students, or most importantly, our students. And so, we're working with partners in our community to try to develop a plan so that we can work, if we're on-site or off-site or learning from a distance, how do we meet the social emotional needs of our students and our staff? And also, finally, the concept of equity. We continue to invest our time and efforts with regards to equity and core beliefs around leveling that playing field for every student, regardless of where you may or may not come from. So those are our guiding principles. Our next page references our timeline. And this was presented to you in early July. And I'm proud to say that we're sticking to that timeline, and we're actually a few days ahead. I know it seems very late to the board and many community members in the room here tonight, but I do want to also reemphasize that we are working in a changing landscape. The challenges that our district faces with regards to the COVID-19 virus are significant. And guidance and requirements seem to change, if not daily, weekly. And so we are constantly working very hard to respond rapidly to that changing environment and develop a plan that our community and this board can stand behind. Next page. So this is the meat and the potatoes of the plan for this evening, and there's a lot of other material, but this is the part that I really want our board and the community in the room to understand with regards to the recommendation this evening. In July, early July, our board took action and approved a hybrid model of AB. That would be Monday, Thursday A group, Tuesday, Friday B group, with a Wednesday being a remote or a distance learning day. So with the changing landscape, we've had to rethink that and really look at developing a plan that will work and we can sustain the work through the 2021 school year. So simply put, it's not as simple as having a brick and mortar plan. It's not as simple as having a hybrid plan, nor a distance learning plan. We really need to have a plan that can evolve with this ever-changing landscape. And that's what I think this plan does this evening for your consideration as a board. This dial references 3 stages that we will utilize this next calendar year, next school year. Stage 1 is 100% online. All students will attend class via online courses only, with limited in-person learning for students with the highest need. I'm going to get into a little more detail in that a little later in the presentation. Then the next stage is stage 2, and there are 4 stages to our hybrid model. The hybrid model has 4 stages, and the reason for those 4 stages would be, simply put, last Tuesday, a week ago Tuesday, the Department of Health put out guidance as it relates to the number of cases per 100,000 within communities across our state, and that created a need for us to rethink how we're looking at our hybrid model, and I'll get to that on the next slide. But hybrid step 1 would include kindergarten through 2nd grade on an AB schedule, and also serving students with an IEP that have our highest need. And we're going to speak to that classification in just a moment. I want to caution the board and caution the community that stage 2.1 is not as simple as turning a light switch on or a light switch off. The safeguards that our district have to put in place to assure student and staff safety are significant. And so we are going to take a very intentional action on staggering the work between kindergarten through 2nd grade. So we will, we will share that material with families, or that vision with families, if this concept is approved this evening. And so, but I do want to caution the board, it's not just turn the light switch on and transition to all the grades on exactly the same day. We simply have to, and I'll just share an example, focus on a grade. If we choose 1st grade as day 1, then we need to have 1st graders come in, spend all of our resources to make sure that our students in 1st grade understand all of the new protocols as it relates to operating within our schools, and our staff understand those protocols, because simply put, our safeguards have to be done correctly. And if we do those correctly, we can offer a site that is very safe for our staff and for our students. So stage 2.2 is step 2, and at that point we would look to include all the students in the previous step, plus also adding grades 3rd through 6th on an AB schedule. Again, we will look at a staggered approach there. Stage 2.3 is a hybrid step 3, which would include all of the students from the previous step, but would also include now 7th graders at the middle school and 9th graders at the high school on an AB schedule. The concept there is, again, the 2 previous steps are elementary based, and I'm going to explain that as to why we're focusing on elementary first in just a minute. But we simply want to bring a grade in at each building so that we can work through, again, the protocols to assure that when students in 8th, 10th, 11th, and 12th return to the school, we have safeguards and measures in place that will simply work for staff and students. And finally, stage 2.4 hybrid is step 4. That would be the full hybrid. All students in all grades would return to the AB model. And then finally, where we all hope and would like to be very, very soon is stage 3, which is traditional learning, back to brick and mortar. That is a part of our plan, and provided that the virus circumstances change, there's potential of traditional learning. Next page, please. Next, there you go. So scroll down a little bit, right there. So this, nope. Up just a little bit, Jenny. Jenny, can you scroll up, please? Okay, right there. So this is an important part of the plan. Can you scroll down a little bit, Jenny? The bottom of that page. Okay, right there. So this is an important part of the plan here. Our plan directly links to the Department of Health, the Washington State Department of Health, and the guidance that our Department of Health shared not last Tuesday, but the Tuesday prior. This is an important part of the plan, and this will really drive a significant, or will drive where we go in progressing or regressing through our stages. And so our district will move in either direction based on the COVID-19 rates per 100,000 over the last 14 days and the success rate of implementing safety protocols in our schools. So that guidance called out in bullet number 1, they really classify counties in 3 categories: high level, which is more than 75 cases per 100,000 in total population in 14 days is considered COVID-19 activity for the community. At this level, Department of Health recommends distance learning with the option for limited in-person learning for those students who need it most, such as students with disabilities. Sports and extracurricular activities should remain on pause. That is a direct quote and not expectation, but recommendation from the Department of Health. You then look at the moderate level, which are counties that fall within 25 and 75 cases per 100,000 in the last 14 days. And those counties are asked to, the Department of Health recommends distance learning as described above, with gradual expansion of in-person education, beginning with elementary students. Younger students under the age of 10 benefit most from in-person learning, while also posing less risk for transmitting COVID-19 than older students. Most extracurricular activities should remain on pause. I quote, "This is our current level." And so, there could be lots of opinions in the room with regards to who benefits most from in-person learning, but this is the guidance that was shared directly from the Department of Health a week ago Tuesday. Then finally, the low level, which would be counties that would fall below 25 cases per 100,000 in the last 14 days. At this level, the Department of Health recommends in-person learning for all elementary students, must follow social distance requirements, so that would create a scenario for a hybrid model, and hybrid learning for middle and high school, eventually moving to in-person for middle and high school. So with this guidance that was shared last week, I believe that it's really important and is a part of our work moving forward as it relates to our phases. We simply cannot be put in a circumstance where the board, the superintendent, or any individual in our district is making judgment calls based on the health and safety of our schools, which include our students, our staff, and this community. And therefore, the Department of Health recommendation that came out a week ago, Tuesday, is a critical part of this plan. And so scroll up just a little bit, Jenny, to the previous page. So with that being said, if we're looking at our model, next page, please. if we're right there, if we're looking at our model, my recommendation to the board is to accept this model that will allow our district to utilize the county cases, positive COVID cases per 100,000 moving forward. And that data will guide us through our decision making as it relates to stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3. And my recommendation is to accept this model and in addition to accept the recommendation tonight based on our county rate of number of cases at hybrid step number 1, stage 2.1. I want to caution the board and everybody in this room this evening that at this point in time, our county rate has gone from last week, early last week, from 26.2, I believe, to Monday and Tuesday of this week being at 53 out of every 100,000, to now it sets today at 68 per 100,000. So we are nearing an area where this district, if this approach is adopted this evening, would put us in a stage 1, 100% online. So this plan really leans on our school system and our community to continue to work together to, do what we all want in this room this evening, which is put our students back in their seats and go back to school and learn. So we really need to emphasize this is a partnership. It's not a school problem. It's not a community problem. It's our problem. And if we work together at the appropriate safeguards, we can keep our schools safe, we can keep our community safe, and we can get our students back in school. Scroll down, please. So a little more. Page 11, please. A little higher. Thank you, Jenny. So just a little more. So in our plan, you can see that on page 11, middle part of page 11, Dr. Allison Unthink has a quote that I will read to you. I believe that the Port Angeles School District return to school plan is sound in its synthesis of current available public health guidance and evidence in how COVID-19 is transmitted. Our best available evidence is that the virus is spread when people are in close contact within 6 feet for a prolonged period of time greater than 15 minutes. This is why physical distancing of 6 feet, mask wearing, and cohort of students are such critical pillars of the safe reopening plan. It is appropriate to begin resuming in-person learning first with our youngest learners, not just because they are some of the most poorly served by distance learning, but also because our most current evidence is that children under the age of 10 are both less likely to suffer severe complications from the virus and less likely to spread it to others. Finally, in the plan is the last paragraph there, which would include the choice that all of our families do have for Seaview Academy, which is 100% online, and we had a report on that this evening. Next section is school operations. Michelle Olson.
All right, good evening, Board of Directors, and thanks for having me here this evening. So before I get started on covering the highlights of the school operations, I too want to say a big thank you to the district administrators, the principals, our PAEA leadership, our teachers across all the grade levels, our instructional coaches, and our support staff here at Lincoln. They have already put in countless hours of time to help create this plan, and are already putting pieces into place to support all aspects of our learning this fall. So it truly is a team effort. So tonight, we're going to start off looking at the elementary piece, but before we do that, I want to clarify just a little bit some of the terms that we use here in the document. So first off, again, we're focusing on students, we're also focusing on equity, and we're doing all of those things with compassion. And one of the things that we certainly had feedback on from the spring is from parents and teachers and students is that they wanted a predictable schedule and a routine that creates that balance of instruction in both academics and the social emotional, while creating opportunities for both whole group, small group, and individual interactions. So we were listening to that, also reaching out for best practices and training. And so we put together, again, our best thinking, and it certainly is our starting point. It will continue to morph as we learn more and as things develop in our community. So what we know as best practice for online learning is a combination of what we call asynchronous and synchronous learning times. And so I want to define those two terms because you'll see them as you look through both of the schedules. So first off, synchronous learning, that really is when teachers and students interact at a certain time. Like it's real time. And for us in the Port Angeles School District, that is within the platform of Google with a Google Meet. That is something that can be recorded if a student misses that time. Examples of things that you might cover in a synchronous learning time could be having a class meeting, maybe a class discussion, checking in with students, maybe reviewing key academic concepts that have been covered earlier, perhaps having a social emotional based lesson, having a sort of whole class experience related to maybe a lab or an experiment, a whole class read aloud. And in our model, we're not providing new instruction during that time, but this is an opportunity to, again, review and expand. And again, always keeping that lens of equity for all of our students. And so then we have the asynchronous learning. And that's learning opportunities that do not occur in real time. Okay, and so those are specifically designed by the teacher, and through those times, a student will perform several learning tasks, and that's without direct teacher supervision. So the teachers created that in such a way that the student can go through each of those steps as they are learning new content. And that's often where we will have pre-recorded videos. So teachers often will make those short 3 to 5 minute videos teaching a new concept, and the child will have the opportunity to watch that, move on to the next slide to do some of their independent or guided practice, and then they might go on to another short video. So again, those are sessions that a student can access at any time. It's not to a set real time. And so again, examples of those pieces could be the guided or independent practice. There might be a section for something that they should read aloud or listen to or watch. And in the format that we're working on, we're using a common learning platform so that that is consistent across our entire district. So for students and for our parents, having one method or one platform to look at will increase success. And so again, our model is created using both of those types of best practice for instruction. So again, for elementary, our schedule we've created is really based on 2 core lessons each day, one with the math and one with the ELA. And those our teachers are creating hour blocks of learning, and those will be what we call the asynchronous times. Those are going to take place after we have a morning meeting where it would be synchronous, where students would be able to come into that Google Meet and have a class meeting, learn about what they're going to see in their ELA time. And then again, they're moving on to the asynchronous learning time. We want to have an opportunity each day to connect with our students to review those key concepts. As you can see on, again, our sample model, we're also providing times for support and independent practice, and including in there, of course, physical activity. Our specialists, those will be times that will be provided asynchronously for PE and music and library. And then again, figuring in time for our extension activities. And so again, on the sample schedule, you can see for kindergarten through second grade, the A-B model as opposed to the remote learning. Again, what's really important to us is that we're consistent in our schedule. So if we have to make a fast pivot, that our students and our staff and our families are ready to go. As we move on to the middle school model, I know there's been some questions about the number of periods. Why are we changing that? Well, we heard your feedback loud and clear from staff, students, and families that to try to have 6 periods a day for students to keep track of is a lot. And so what we've designed is what we call our 3x3 model. And so at the middle school, they will be, again, splitting the semester in half and having students just take 3 classes at a time instead of 6. And that's going to simplify their schedule. And if we're in the hybrid model, that will certainly reduce student contact time. They have included within their middle school model the advisory time, and that's really important. That's that time where they're going to be able to be provided support, both for their academic and their social emotional needs. That's where the advisor teacher will help them with, expectations, procedures, and really build on those positive relationships. So for middle school, their typical day will be, logging in for that synchronous advisory time at about 8:20. And they'll be there again, participating with other students before going into, in the first quarter, period 1. And that's where they would have the asynchronous video lesson and would be working their way through that, knowing that they would have access at the same time to support from their classroom teacher. So again, providing flexibility with our schedule. And you can see as you look at the model, then they would go have a movement break and lunch, and then they move to period 2 and period 3, and then ending their day, again, with some social, emotional, asynchronous learning opportunities. So if you continue to scroll, so continue on down, thank you. So again, here you can see on this model for all the remote learning that, again, that Wednesday day is going to be a day of asynchronous coursework time, and that will be provided for the students. And during that time, teachers will still be have times for office hours, but that's also the time where teachers will be planning and collaborating and creating those asynchronous videos and lessons for the students in the upcoming week. I want to continue to scroll down. So that brings us to the high school. And again, as you can see from the plan, their schedule, again, was designed for the hybrid to create a schedule that would reduce the risk of possible virus transmission. And so they took their schedule from the 7-period day and created a 4x4. And again, we know that if we were in the hybrid model, that takes the number of passing periods from 7 to 3. So that cuts down on the passing in hallways. With our remote learning time, we heard loud and clear from all our parents and students and families that to focus on 7 classes is a lot. And so what we're doing is focusing down on 4 and allowing for best practices in that online instructional delivery model. So they will be participating in both those synchronous times throughout their day, but also the asynchronous times where they'll have some choice about, when they can do that lesson. And so as you look through the schedule, there's also lots of opportunities for support, distance learning support during the advisory time, which is their first thing in the morning. And then as we continue down, Lincoln High School's schedule is very similar. And again, you can see providing those opportunities across the week and across different periods. So you're not always having each day the synchronous meet in period 1. It might rotate to period 2. We know that by using those best practices, that's going to allow for higher engagement for our students and a better participation. So those are all pieces that are critical to the success of our building schedules. And all of our building principals, again, have worked really hard to put together these sample learning schedules. And we know that as we get more information, that those pieces may change. A key to the success of this, however, is going to be the professional learning that we provide for our teachers, so that they have the skills that they need to provide the best instruction. We also know that we need to provide our parents with that training to interact with our learning platforms and with our students so that they can successfully navigate the learning platform and feel connected and engaged with both their teacher and their classroom. And we'll talk here a little bit more in the plan. Jared will talk about the selection of our learning management systems, our platform, and how those will support learning.
Thank you, Michelle. Jenny, can you move to page 20, please? The bottom of page 20. So the next section that I want to cover is face coverings. And this is a really important concept for our board and the community here this evening. With regards to trying to move into and phase into more schooling, face coverings for our staff will be required. For our instructional staff, the teachers and the para-eds that work directly with students in a teaching and learning environment will be provided what is known in the medical field as a surgical mask. And that's what Dr. Unthink recommends for instructional staff. Non-instructional staff can provide their own face covering as long as they comply with the health agency guidance. Next page, please. For students, face coverings, it's at the very top. Face coverings for students will also be required. The district will provide various sizes of face coverings for students. Students may provide their own appropriate face covering, again, as long as it complies with the health agency guidance. This is a really important concept that, again, if we're going to work together between school, community, and each family to, reduce the transmission within our community and schools, and it will make us capable of progressing through our phases. Next item is the middle of page 21, and Nolan Deuce is on next.
Okay, I'm trying to start the video, but it's not going. So I'll just talk about it. So first of all, I want to talk about the people that are going to be doing this work. We've got great people that care about the district. They care about the students. They care about the community. They're well trained, and they're just good people. They're hardworking people. So our current guidelines for cleaning and disinfecting with COVID-19 from the CDC states disinfection should be registered with the EPA, and they should be based on hydrogen peroxide or alcohol. And that's what most of our cleaning chemicals are. Again, the custodians are highly trained. They know how to use PPEs. They know how to clean, they know where to clean, and the most effective ways to do it. We're going to be doing a lot of touch points. We're going to be cleaning classrooms in a different way, that we'll still all be cleaning for health and safety. We're going to be cleaning between class changes. We have very limited amount of time between the class changes, and we'll be working through that. But again, we have the equipment to do that, and we have the chemicals to do that. Another important thing is the ventilation in all the buildings. All of our buildings are not created equal, as we know. Some are new state-of-the-art buildings, and others are not so much. So we're going to be making sure that all the ventilation is turned up as much as we can possibly get on our buildings. I've listed out a cleaning procedure that you can look through, and it does talk about just what we're doing, whether it's restrooms, classrooms, carpets, countertops, door handles. It shows you what we're doing, and it shows you the chemicals we're using. And I just want to go in again and talk about having adequate supplies. That's something that we have tried and started a long time ago. So with the face masks, we've got 40,000 face masks in the district. We've got 4,000 N95 face masks. We've got enough sanitizer to put a dispenser on every teacher's desk and refill it once a year, refill it every week once a year. We've got sanitizer for common spaces. We've got gloves. We've got 10,000 small gloves. We've got 30,000 in the sizes medium, large, and extra large, 30,000 each of those sizes. We've got face shields. We have safety glasses. So we're already have a good supply that's going to get us through most of the year. We've got disinfectants, and we've got good supplies that of all of them. Hydrogen peroxide disinfectants and some hospital grade quaternary cleaners. And we have a good supply of plexiglass. So if there is a need that arises later on, we have that as well. So I think we're in a good place. I think our crews are trained very, very well. And I think we have the equipment and the chemicals to support their work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nolan. If you could scroll to page 23. Next up, we have instruction. Michelle, essential standards.
Alrighty, so again, we learned a lot from this past spring, and of course we need to be focused on what is the most essential for our students to be learning. We want to maximize that in-person time, and we want to improve the quality of our distance learning so it is robust and rigorous and supportive of our students. So the first step in that we took just a few weeks ago, and that is pulling together at the elementary level to start with, groups of teachers at every grade level, and then working together to identify what were going to be those most essential standards for the year, and identifying for this first trimester. So it's important to note that those essential standards, we started with those. They unpacked those standards to create clear learning targets. They then created assessments that would measure whether students were successful in learning those standards. And then from there, we created a scope and sequence. They did, and literally they are looking at by week, by day, clearly identified targets using our district materials. They have even started creating the asynchronous lessons. And again, they're doing this by grade level. Why does that matter? That matters because we want to make sure that we're providing a consistent learning experience for our students and our families across our system. So whether you're a student at Dry Creek or Jefferson or Franklin, our system is put together so all students are receiving that quality education. We also know for our teachers that we have to be efficient with our time and our resources. So working together to create the best lessons builds off of our strengths. So they have done that both in ELA and math, and we have teams that are continuing to fine tune that. Teachers will continue through the school year to collaborate on those Wednesdays to, again, create engaging and robust lessons. For secondary as well, they have started and they're meeting in both grade level and subject teams. And they're, they have always identified their standards, but we're asking them to really look at those most essential standards for the quarter. And again, unpacking that, what are those learning targets day to day? Recognizing, right, that they're taking what they usually had taught in a semester of time, and we're asking them to teach that in a quarter, and they're doing it in periods of time that are longer for them than they had in the past. So this is requiring a shift in some of our instructional practices. So another piece that is connected to this is that, again, we're looking at integrating our science and our social studies at the elementary. We are providing those specialist opportunities at the elementary, again, for music and PE. And again, all of the elective teachers at the middle school and high school go through the same process to identify those standards, create learning targets. So we're very clear on what we want to be teaching. Our platform for presenting that information is critical. It's important that we're using the Google platform for the 4th through 12th grade, and that everyone is having a similar experience across our system. So that work is continuing. That leads us into the next section, which is on grading practices, if you continue to scroll. And again, in the springtime, that was a different time period, and we had to adjust and be flexible given all that was going on. But as we come into the fall, our grading practices are reflecting the change. And so at elementary, you'll continue to see the standards-based grading that we have used in the past. They'll be scoring those essential standards. And then also a big focus of our time is around that social emotional learning. So that'll be an opportunity for teachers to address that growth for individual students. At middle school and high school and Lincoln, we are using the letter grade system, as you can see there, and based on students' mastery of essential standards. And again, for some of our students, based on their educational plans, there's certainly the pass-fail. Also, as part of what we were required to do last spring, and it goes into this fall, is we have to have a plan to support those students who may have an incomplete from one of their classes last year at the secondary level. So at the secondary level, we have our principals and our counselors working very closely together to reach out to parents and students to talk about what is the plan for that child to be able to change that incomplete to a letter grade. And there's several different options that we can choose depending on the student's needs. So that leads us into attendance. And last year, as you know, we did take attendance, and that was sort of sometimes a moving target depending how people were able to access things. And we saw that ebb and flow. And so as we move into this fall, we'll be taking attendance, daily attendance for all of our students, whether we're on the AV hybrid or we're in the remote learning. We'll be working with teachers, again, to use the Skyward system, but we're also, again, going to be flexible and working with our families if they have something that is affecting their student or their family. We're going to continue to engage with them. We will provide that outreach and create plans, again, to help individual students. And so that's similar all the way across our system relative to attendance, really about how we can help our students and families.
Thank you. Next up, Pam Sanford, Director of Special Services.
Hopefully, can you
Yes, we see you and hear you. Yes.
Okay, super. So with regard to special services, I wanted to really just highlight some key pieces as far as our systems, and in particular, how we're adjusting also to the idea of remote learning, remote evaluations, IEPs, and also how we're going to address those needs of our learners that perhaps we cannot do so in an online environment. So as you'll see here, child find and referrals, we're going to continue with our child find processes. We have the obligation to ensure that we locate, identify students with disabilities. That being said, we have a unique attention paid to the amount of time that learning may have been lost last spring. And so we also want to be careful that we don't over-identify based on those lost time periods of instruction for students. Jenny, if you'll scroll down, please, to the next page. So child find and referrals are going to continue. Evaluations and eligibility. So I'm really excited to announce that we have partnered up with Pearson, as well as our continued partnership with Presence Learning, to be able to offer our staff a very safe environment to conduct evaluations, whether it be for cognitive evaluations, for speech language therapy, occupational therapy. So we are getting on board with technology for that and training for our staff, and that will help us maintain that level of compliance that we need and the services that are targeted to the students' needs. If you'll continue to scroll down there, Jenny, that'd be great. To the next page. So we also recognize, if you go down to the IEP section, that we have a number of IEPs that were delayed, or that families had discussions with their case manager during the closure last spring to, again, delay till this fall. We do have an obligation when school starts up again in the fall that every family, every parent, every guardian, every adult student will be contacted by their student's case manager to amend those IEPs to whatever current learning environment they are in, whether it be they're in a remote learning environment or whether we're able to offer in-person learning. Those IEPs will be amended. What I want to really highlight and stress right now to the board and those who may be participating in this call is that we're listening to families. I have gotten the emails, I have seen the notes in chat, and we're really going to focus our attention on, as I listen to Michelle Olson talk about asynchronous learning opportunities and synchronous learning, and I think about our highest needs students in our resource 2 classrooms, developmental preschool, developmental kindergarten, etc., that cannot access their education in that manner. We're going to really make sure that our case managers are having those connections with families and saying, okay, what is it that we can do and what does that look like for fall? So definitely a priority for when we reopen in September. And then if you can scroll down a bit more, Jenny. To the next page. And so I put in there just some different settings for remote and hybrid models, and this really pertains to helping case managers and families understand what may be a general education setting versus a special education setting. Again, really focusing on understanding and compliance. If you could continue scrolling. And then I put in some different operational models, what it might look like for a student, again, with distance learning versus hybrid versus traditional, and how a student may participate in each one of those environments. And I think there's one more section, progress monitoring, if you'll continue down to, so the last piece about recovery services. So you'll have progress monitoring and recovery services, and really progress monitoring is evidence-based, research-based. It's something that we do daily, weekly, monthly, and that really drives our instruction and understanding of where a student is reaching their goals and for their IEP. We have specific data points that we collected as a district back in March, again in June, and we'll collect a third data point in October. And the triangulation of those 3 data points, along with reviewing the amount of participation a student was able to have or did have with the closure last spring. Teams will be talking about then, where is my student at, and what type of recovery services, meaning recovery of any skills lost during that time of non-in-person instruction, will we look at over the course of this next school year. And typically these are done during the school day, and I put some different examples in there as well. So overall, I just want the board to know that we are really in tune to bringing technology on board to assist not only our staff, but our students. And then secondly, having those really key communications with our families so that we can develop an outline what the individual learner will need come this fall.
Thank you. Bottom of page 34, Jared with Core 4 platform.
Page 34, that focus on your Core 4. So these tools, a quick audio check. Okay. I'll just hear me all right. These tools make up our learning platform. We've selected 4 of them. Want folks to focus on, both our teachers and our community, to look at our lessons. These 4 tools are the Google Classroom, the Google Drive, Screencastify, and Meet, Google Meet. These tools, Google Classroom is our home base. So Google Classroom will be the place where all the assignments are posted. It'll be the place where you'll check in to find out.
Losing you again.
Is a place where we'll do file management. Tools allow us to share with families to be able to find that. And then the Screencastify allows us to do recording of videos. That's what is our communication. It's a one-way communication where a teacher would record a video and then post that for the students to be able to view on their time. Google Meet is our virtual meeting space. That's our synchronous communication, a two-way communication between staff and students. Virtual meeting like what we're doing tonight. We're doing this for some very specific reasons. We're looking to streamline instruction and community for the community. So when you come in to help your students access their education, it's easy to navigate consistently across the district, with the exception of K through 3, which would be working in a tool called Seesaw, and it's all of this communication and is a little bit easier for the focused on that grade. So that's our Core 4. We're going to be looking. We'll meet and keep our communications for everyone to be able to stay part of and be effective with. So
Thank you. Michelle, social emotional learning, please.
Yes, so again, as we've had throughout both our initial remote learning plan and our drafts, social emotional learning is at the core. We need to tend to that for not only our students and our families, but also our staff. We want to make sure that we're supporting that social and emotional health of our students in an ongoing way. And we know that's going to look different for every student and every family. But what this plan is about supporting the needs of all students. And so we have created a plan to provide a universal screening for each student as they return to school. And with that screening, we want to be able to identify a student's strengths, their learning needs, their social emotional needs, because we want to be able to help create that equitable learning environment so that they can thrive. And given for some of our students and our families, situations that occurred or happened over the spring, we know that we have to help them heal and move on and to help build that resilience. And so We are using, we plan to use an online format that we will be supporting every student K through 12, and I appreciate Pam and sharing this resource that she was already providing to our students through special services. So we'll be providing training for that, and then what that will allow us to do is to look at our students as individuals, but also across classrooms, across grade levels, across schools, and across our district, to be able to better be intentional, to build partnerships, and provide support and resources to our families. So we will be using materials provided by CASTLE, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. They have created a roadmap for reopening schools, and it just is full of best practices and really supports a district and a community with parents and providers coming together to, again, use best practices to support our students, families, and teachers. And we're going to be doing this by, again, identifying, doing the screening. We'll be providing instruction around social emotional. We'll also be taking those moments and times to align our practices and policies to make sure we're supporting opportunities for all students. And within that, we're going to continue to create those family and community partnerships to support our students. And it's exciting for me to think about the opportunity that we have here in September, because we're starting fresh, and so for our students and our staff, our students and our staff haven't connected yet. So this is going to be an opportunity to start off in a positive way to build that relationship, and we plan on connecting with them and either virtually or in person to find out what can we do to support you and your child both here at school, and what are your needs that we might be able to help you with outside of school as well. So it's exciting, and I can't say enough about the importance of it, as we know that we have to meet a child's physical needs for safety, but we also need to make sure we're connecting with them for building those positive relationships so they feel that sense of belonging and connection. And if we have all those pieces together and we're working with our parents and our families and our community, then it's at that point that we know we're ready to build on that foundation with the academics. And so this is going to be a challenge in this new learning environment, but by partnering together, we're gonna do amazing things for our students and families.
Jared, technology.
In this technology section, I would just like to let everyone know that we do have a one-to-one plan in place for this school year, and we will be sending home Chromebooks with students. Part of that plan includes support and training for students and parents. We'll be continuing to use wireless from within our school properties. So wireless is always available on our school properties, play fields, and parking lots. That will continue to be available. We're also going to continue to roll the Wi-Fi buses out into the community. We're working on lots of partnerships and different ways to get more connectivity out to students that don't have it. We are also trying to leverage how the Chromebooks cache content so that someone can come to school and access their learning, and then when they go home, the Chromebook will carry some of that with it to their home so they can work on it offline. We're also I also want to just throw in there again that we're really trying to be consistent with our delivery model and focusing on that core 4. We do want to introduce the seesaw model for K3 students, which is a little bit different, but it's a single container that's going to hold all that content. So a lot of work went into creating a plan that's going to help get kids connected, and I think we're ready to see it in action. So that's our technology moving forward.
Thank you. And co-curricular, extracurricular activities. As of this month, WIAA has classified seasons into 4 seasons, starting at the end of this calendar year, first part of 2021. So at this point in time, fall, WIAA co-curricular and extracurricular activities have been moved or delayed for a few months, in some cases several months. I do want to remind the board that that is a WIAA decision, and we have much choice as it relates to, or some choice as it relates to our reopening plan, but with regards to co-curricular and extracurricular activities, WIA has taken action on delaying its seasons. And finally, professional development, Michelle.
All right. Well, as you read through this document, it's clear that we have set the bar high for ourselves. We have high expectations for the services that we're going to provide to our students and to your children. And what we know with high expectations is that you have to have high support. And so we're asking our staff at all levels, whether it's teacher, para, custodian, we're asking them to do their jobs in new and different ways. And with that, it's our obligation to provide that high level of support. And part of that is that training or professional development. So we did begin some of this last spring and participating in some trainings through our educational service district we were learning about best practices from experts that have been doing distance learning. And we had teachers from every school site participating, both in the spring and here again in August. We also are super fortunate that with our learning platform, with the Google Learning, that they have a professional development built into the system in different levels, and it's all virtual. And so we have many, many teachers that have participated in that this past summer. And again, we had our teams across all levels participating in that professional learning time to identify those standards. They've been doing that hard work. And as we come here into mid-August and we're planning for fall, we have several priorities. Certainly, first and foremost is making sure that all of our staff are trained around the health and safety practices and protocols. That's first and foremost to create that safe working and learning environment for our students and our staff. And then with that, we need to make sure that we're providing all of our staff the knowledge and the tools to use those best remote learning, distance learning practices. For our kindergarten or pre-K through third grade, they'll be using the Seesaw learning platform. And for the parents of those younger students, all I can say is you're gonna love it. It's age appropriate. It allows your child really to have a personal interaction through the online platform with their teacher and not relying as heavily on you as parent to navigate the Google Classroom. So we're excited about that. We'll be providing training. Jen Van Dweg, our principal out at Roosevelt, is taking the lead on that. In addition, we're also providing training for our staff in the 4th through 12th grade around what tools do we need to be using for our Google platform. And we're creating agreements, like what are those things we absolutely are going to be using and what will we not be using? And how will that first screen look when a parent or a student logs on to their Google account? We want you to be able to count on seeing that same format every time so you know exactly what to do. And we're going to continue, as you can see the list. There's a lot of different things we want to provide training, again, for all of our staff around how to best meet the needs of our students with the social emotional pieces. And again, continue to learn in this new distance learning model or hybrid model. How do we best engage in feedback and learning with our students? So while this is a challenging time, no doubt, this is also such a learning opportunity for us to reimagine education in the Port Angeles School District and take this as an opportunity to improve and innovate our learning practices for our students, staff, and our families. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. So this evening, and thank you for your patience with the presentation this evening, board. I understand that typically we don't have presentations in this length typical of board meetings, but I think this is a very important concept, and I want to make sure that our board of directors and the community that has chosen to attend this evening have a thorough understanding of our plan. As I started this evening with, we're in a new and fluid environment. As you can see, the presentation this evening has the ability to adapt and be flexible enough to allow us to make wise decisions as it relates to safety of our community, of our students and our staff, and still provide a quality education to all the residents of our community. So with that, it's back to you, President Long.
Sandy, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Somebody muted me, and I don't blame them. But anyway, here we go. What we're going to do next is we recognize that a lot of our parents and community people have sent us letters and texts and all emails, all kinds of communications, which we have read thoughtfully. And tonight, we're going to let 3 of our board members are going to read letters or comments, and I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they will have a chance to read some comments that you've sent to them. Then we're going to let the community come online and listen to their comments tonight before the board will then read our resolution, turn it into a motion, and then the board will be able to make comments, and then we'll have a roll call vote. So that's where we're going from here. Let me remind the public that each person has 3 minutes to respond. We ask you to keep your comments as brief as you can. The board cannot respond to you tonight, so don't be discouraged or disappointed by that. We'll be listening very carefully to what you have to say. Total comments on any one topic, whether it's agenda or non-agenda, will be limited to 15 minutes. If we want to go further than that, then at least 2 of the board of directors will have to extend another 15-minute period, and that will mean that one of the board members will have to make a motion to do that, and then we'll have to have a second to move on. So Jenny Wilson will keep the time for you, and I'm going to move now to the board members who are going to read comments. Cindy, did you have one to read?
I do. So this is from Kate Boyd. It's dated August 10th. Hello, hardworking staff at the Port Angeles School District. I heard that you have a district meeting coming up on Thursday, August 13th, and wanted to drop my 2 cents in on the school reopening for all. You cannot know what we are thinking unless we tell you. I'm thinking that going back to school full-time is preferable to all other alternatives, short of funding more space and qualified staff to teach our children at a distance. I have heard many rumors about changes to alternative plans, one being bringing the younger children back full-time and putting the older ones online full-time. I believe that this is a sounder plan than going 2 days a week. I know that all children need stability, but older children are more flexible. I don't want to downplay the situation, but without educated minds to cope with these things, there will be. I see that social distance is a driving force, but would like to point out that Group A and the Group B children will be mixing in after school care. You guys rock. This is such a challenge, and I know that we can face it together with grace, understanding, and intelligence. Keep up the good work, Kate Boyd.
Thank you, Cindy. Sarah Methner.
Okay, I have a letter here from Victoria Rockhold from Jefferson Elementary School, dated August 8th. Dear PASD School Board, I have a colleague who's approaching age 70 and continues working in an elementary school. As you know, she is high risk for succumbing to COVID-19. Many of us working in elementary schools are close to 60 or in our 60s. We feel the risk, the stress I apologize. I'm being attacked by my dog. I apologize. Many of us working in elementary schools are close to 60 or in our 60s. We feel the risk. The stress of our jobs weakens our immune system. I have many colleagues who are obese, maybe just a little obese, but with that added risk factor. My own husband walks in those shoes. He is at risk. My 81-year-old mother lives with us. She too is at risk. If you ask us to reopen schools, even with a hybrid model, we are all at risk. All of our bodies, those little 8-year-old ones and those immortal 28-year-old ones and those 58-year-old bodies and those 81-year-old bodies with their loose folds of soft, papery skin are at risk. Will you sit in classrooms when the masks come off for lunch? Will you? You are invited to join us in this death dance. Spin the roulette wheel and watch where the ball lands. How high will the numbers go? Which one of us are you willing to lose? Which ones? How many? Will you hold my hand at my mother's funeral? Will you worry by my side when my husband or my colleague or a small child struggles in hospital? Will you sit with me through long nights and let my tears drench your shirt? You have incredible power in your decision to open schools or to delay opening until we can ensure that we have effective vaccines in adequate number and ample local access to tests that are processed within hours rather than days or weeks. You have incredible power over the health of our community. I trust you will use it wisely. Please, being in a currently moderate risk county does not magically provide protection for individuals. Of course, you know this. Please, as much as I yearn to do my job in person, to be back face to face with the children, now is not the time. It just plain isn't. Sincerely, Victoria Rockhold.
Thank you, Sarah. I believe Katie, do you also have a letter to share?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, my letter says to Port Angeles School Board, my name is Janice Bach. I have a student who will be a senior this year. She is one of many students that does not do well with virtual learning. So I was very excited about the hybrid model for our schools. I am only one of over 3,000 families who are relying on our school board officials to make the best possible decision for all families. As of last week, Dr. Unthank has stated that even though COVID cases are up, she saw no reason not to go ahead with the hybrid model. She also stated that Governor Inslee new rules were not a mandate, but guidelines. The CDC has also made similar guidelines and encouraged schools to be open as much as possible. The people in our community have to be trusted to do the right thing. Unfortunately, because of the local parties on July 4th, the number of cases have jumped. The families of our school district should not be punished for the reckless behavior of that group of people. The majority of our community have been complied to state and local guidelines, and tracing seems to have worked well. I have been following the news nationally and keeping up on the science, which our governor constantly cites. Unfortunately, the science seems to change every few days. But right now, unless talking about the hot spots of cases, the CDC recommends that schools reopen with the proper precautions. I thought this is where Port Angeles was until receiving an email last week stating there would be some tweaks in the plan. Then the next day, the Daily News reports that our superintendent of school had shot that plan way out of the ballpark. His plan, at best, is confusing and will hurt students and make a nightmare for families. All students need at least some person-to-person interaction with their teacher and peers. This is a proven fact and recommended by the CDC. As you all know, school is so much more than an education. Death of teenagers from suicide and overdoses have skyrocketed over the past 5 months. Schools are area safe havens, a good meal, and so much more for our children. Right now, child abuse has become a national health emergency. I am requesting hybrid model be left in place. Thank you. Janice Bach.
Thank you, Katie. I guess that shows our audience and the board that just 3 examples of the many, many, many letters and texts that we have received. Now, Christian, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, I think it's time to let our audience have time to speak. Are you going to control that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So again, if you had submitted a comment through our Q&A panel, then you have gotten yourself a place in line. Currently, our first up to speak is John Henry. I will be enabling your microphone. Please be sure to state your name and address and then proceed with your comment. You'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, I'm John Henry. I'm at 1315 South B. I'm the PAEA president. So thanks for your support of our district. It's very much appreciated, the board. I want to let you know that our members are already working really hard to prepare for the start of the school year. It's both in official and unofficial capacities. I've been part of a lot of emails and a lot of meet sessions. Our association spent time this summer reaching out to our members who work in a wide variety of areas. You know, classroom teachers, specialists from many departments, as well as school psychologists, SLPs, OTs, nurses. Thank you for that. A lot of people are working hard so we can meet our students' academic needs, as well as their social and emotional needs, whether we're working in buildings or remotely. So I want to thank our dedicated members for all the work they've done this summer. Also want to thank the administrative team for listening to our concerns and working with us to address those concerns. That work's been very collaborative, and I'm looking forward to continuing that work as we prepare for the start of school and even after we start the school year. I'd also like to thank the community for stepping up with support to provide daycare, internet access, other financial assistance. It's really nice to see the community stepping up to help our students and our families. It's much needed and much appreciated. And finally, I'd like to thank the people in our community who've limited their activities and started wearing their masks when in public. We need your continued support to get our case numbers down to keep our staff, students, and families safe. So thanks for your time and consideration.
Thank you, John.
Next up will be Betsy Wharton. Here in just a moment, I will enable your microphone. Please remember to state your name and address and then proceed with your comment. You'll have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Wharton, and I am speaking tonight as a career tech education teacher at Port Angeles High School. I am also a registered nurse in the community. I've been a community health nurse for many years. I also have 2 students that successfully graduated from Port Angeles High School. And I am amazed and appreciative and overwhelmed by the complexity of your task and appreciate all the work that's going on. I have 2 mottos for myself these last few months. One is everyone is doing the best they possibly can right now. And also, I'm trying to stay optimistic and open to creative ideas as things kind of crash and shift. There's a lot of opportunity I see. So I want to speak tonight really to put a plug in for the possibility of outdoor education. And it seems that the conversation operates on a binary, kind of a popular buzzword these days, where it's either bricks and mortar or online. And I believe that having students learn outside is absolutely safer from a COVID point of view. And I also think that it contributes to some social emotional value. We know that being outside, fresh air, UV light, is healthful. We also know that the possibility of coming into real physical contact with each other will absolutely help establish relationships with students that we haven't even met yet. I don't know about you, but if you ever have a conversation with an old friend on the street, it is uplifting, like a Zoom session can never. So I just want to say that my particular project has been the high school garden. I have two health sciences career tech ed classes. One is emergency preparedness, the other is a survey of healthcare, and I have developed multiple labs that can happen outside. The students do, however, need to come to campus and be on campus in order to equitably make outdoor learning work. I am patient and I will be persistent. I don't know that this will be a possibility in September 1, but I am looking and working towards having a way to expand the safety and the possibilities for students on campus by getting them outside. Every single campus that we have has a pretty extensive outdoor area. And I would love to be part of a working group that really seriously took a look at what it would take to pivot to becoming a more outdoor oriented school community. I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Betsy.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sandy.
Madam President, that is the end of our list tonight for people who have submitted comments. I believe it is back to you.
All right, thank you very much. Then what we'd like to do next, I'd like to have one of the board members, and Jacob, if you will do this, it would be very helpful for me to read the board resolution.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then we will have a discussion and a vote.
Okay, can someone put that up on the screen or should I pull it up?
It should be on the
I can grab it off board docs.
on the agenda.
Yep, I got it here. Just give me 1 sec.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jacob, I've freed up the screen for you to present the resolution.
Oh, thanks. Give me a second here. I'm not sure if I know how to do that, but
Bottom of your screen, there's a green share screen button.
okay.
I can share it as well.
Yeah, Jenny, will you throw it up there? And I'm just going to read it. Yep.
Give me 10 seconds, I'll have it up.
There you go. Thank you, Jenny.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Port Angeles School District number 121, Clallam County, Washington. Resolution number 1920-17. Whereas Chapter 28A.320 RCW authorizes local school boards to govern their respective districts, including the promotion of effective, efficient, and safe district operations in RCW 28A.330.100 authorizes local school boards with additional powers, and RCW 28A.150.230 assigns local school boards the responsibility for ensuring quality in the content and extent of its educational program. Whereas on February 29, 2020, Washington Governor Jay Inslee declared a state of emergency in all counties of our state under Chapter 38.08 and 38.52 and 43.06 RCW, and directed the implementation of the plans and procedures of the state's comprehensive emergency management plan in response to the novel coronavirus COVID-19, and on March 13th, 2020, Governor Inslee ordered the closure of all public and private K-12 schools in Washington state until April 24th, 2020, to contain the spread of COVID-19. And on April 6, 2020, directed that school buildings remain closed from providing traditional in-person instruction throughout the remainder of the 2019 and 2020 school year. Whereas RCW 28A.150.290 authorizes the state superintendent of public instruction to make rules and regulations as necessary to carry out the proper administration of its statutory duties in unforeseen conditions, and on June 11th, 2020, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction issued official guidance for reopening Washington schools for the 2020-2021 school year, which included sections on health and safety from the Department of Health and the Department of Labor and Industries, specifying employee and student safety requirements for reopening schools during the COVID-19 pandemic and requiring school boards to adopt and submit reopening plans for the 2020 and 2021 school year. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Port Angeles School District Board of Directors has reviewed and hereby adopts its reopening plan for the 2020-2021 school year, which addresses the mandatory health requirements, statutory education requirements, and additional expectations as identified by the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction's June 11, 2020 official guidance for reopening Washington schools. Be it further resolved that the board directs that the plan be posted on the district's website 2 weeks prior to the reopening of school. The board recognizes that the circumstances related to reopening schools safely are mutable, and the reopening plan requires monitoring and possible revision. Therefore, the district superintendent will monitor the reopening plan throughout the 2020 and 2021 year, and the district will revise and update the reopening plan as needed. Be it further resolved that execution of this resolution is conclusive evidence of the board's approval of this action and of the authority granted herein. The board warrants that it has, and at the time of this action had, full power and lawful authority to adopt this instrument. This resolution pertains exclusively to the 2020 and 2021 school year and sunsets no later than that time. Adopted and approved this 13th day of August, 2020.
Thank you so much, Jake. Well done. So I'm looking for a motion.
Director Kelly makes a motion to approve the PA School District 2021 Reopening Plan and District Reopening Plan Resolution 1920-17.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, Director Marks seconds.
Thank you. Now it's time for board discussion. Any
right,
discussion?
I'll go.
Okay,
yeah,
Jake.
I want to say thank you to those of you who made comments tonight and everyone who wrote us letters. I read a lot of letters from teachers, parents, and students. And it's good to remember that we're up here to do what's best for our students, but also remember that we are elected officials and represent this community. And so I really appreciate everyone's comments. I've been all over this plan, and I think it, from my perspective, is the one that best adapts to the shifting sands that we're walking on. Its ability to adapt to the new data that comes in and really yields just to the science of what we're dealing with so that we can move with the virus. I'd like everyone to know that from what I have observed, our administration has worked so hard on this plan and has had to change while different recommendations and requirements came down from the state level, and have able to move without, I know it must have been painful to have worked so hard and then having had to change what they were doing, but without complaint moved on to the next thing. And I want the community to know that none of these decisions are made lightly. What I see in this plan is likely the most appropriate for what aligns with our main directives being safety first and a quality education second, but a close second. I throw my full support behind this opening plan.
Thank you, Jacob. Any other board members like to comment?
So I too want to thank the administration and our fabulous leadership by Superintendent Brewer and his team for all the work that they did on behalf of this plan. It's not an easy journey that we'll be taking, but I know it'll be a better journey than we had in the spring. And for the front is that we have to be safe, and our families have to be safe, and we have to work together as a community, as Marty said before, to make sure that we're taking care of each other, and that our families are safe, and that our parents are safe, and our staff is safe, and our students are safe, and that all of our community is healthy as we go back into schools. And though we, the board, had decided long before that we were going to go back to school, and then when the news came from the governor's office, we really didn't have a choice. And we have a lot of people above us, a lot of other bodies that get to make decisions for us, like the State Board of Education, OSPI, Department of Health, WIA, Department of Labor, and the list goes on and on. But at the end of the day, we, as Jacob said, are elected officials, and we have to do what's best for our community and what's best for our families. And though we won't make everybody happy, we feel in our hearts this is the best plan as we move forward. And I have full confidence in our administration that they will watch after our families and our students and our staff as we move forward.
Thank you, Cindy.
Well, I can go if you would
Yes.
like. I've spent, I don't know, I bet all of us have spent a few minutes thinking about this issue and maybe not sleeping as well as we might be, because I kind of want to frame things for the people listening in. As I often am hearing comments about how awful things were in the spring. And I just really want us all to realize we were crisis working in the spring. Teaching was a crisis teaching. We, in one day, locked the doors, and what our teachers gave us the best that they had, and this district gave the best that they had, and we all agree it wasn't enough. So I want us to put that's in the past. I think that what I heard often and most is that our kids lacked accountability. I want my kid to have accountability. I want our students to show that they have to show up, they need a schedule. And I think that this, particularly when you look at the schedules played out, this plan puts that forefront. Teachers know what's expected. Kids know what's expected. The parents, the families know what's expected. And I think that should give everybody a little solace, because this is a very tumultuous and sad time for us. I think the synchronous and the asynchronous teaching schedule, I think, is vital, because we hear often how kids need to see each other and be around each other, and that is 100% true. And I want everyone to know I'm not talking, just blah, blah, blah. I had a senior last year who lost a lot. And so I understand what everybody is feeling and what I feel too. So I'm happy to see this plan. I wish we had it. And I think this will always be in our back pocket from here forever. We'll know what we need to do going forward. And that's, anyway, back to that synchronous and asynchronous learning, having kids and their teachers interacting will be helpful. It will not be perfect, because we know our buildings can't hold everybody and follow the 6 feet distance. We just don't have that, which is why we had to go to the AB, and maybe potentially, depending, following the rules, why we can't necessarily go all back at school, flip on the light switch like Marty was talking. We're going to have to take measured, slow, sensible approaches. I also want to just shout out to technology. I think what we also had a big problem with was the not being this ability now that kids will have to download their work, take their computer home, work on their stuff, and then it re-uploads the next time they hook up. I don't think that can be understated, how important something like that is. That, and having their own computer, because for goodness sakes, I have 6 people who live in this house. If we had one computer, which is often the case, the kids would not have been able to finish their work. There's not enough hours in the day. So that, I just shout out big for that, and parents can take some solace knowing each of their kids, not one Chromebook for your family. It's going to be, if you have 4 kids, you're going to have 4 Chromebooks, and that's super important. The other, I know I feel like I'm jumping around, but the other thing is I did want to talk to Betsy's point, which was I had already had that down, and a lot of schools are going to this. So as much outside learning as we can. Our spring here and our fall, our September, our October are beautiful here. The more we can have our learning outside, the better. And so I hope we're looking at that. There are schools that are investing in huge tents. I'm not wanting to add to the already very huge rules or plan that's happening, but I do want us to be thinking about how much, I want our teachers to be thinking how much can actually be done outside, because, and the other, let me see, my last one was masks. I know this has somehow become a political issue, but I'm going to say it as strongly as I can. If your child won't wear a mask, and if you don't start that now with your kids, then your child will not be welcome in my school building. And I hate to be harsh like that, but the time is over for us to say, well, my kid can, or my teacher, I won't. And no, if we're going to move together, it's going to take all of the community. We're going to come together. We are going to do this. And like it or not, that's going to involve wearing a mask. So let's work on starting to get our kiddos. Kids are good about this stuff. Let's get them ready for it. I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to hear this argument anymore. You don't wear a mask, you don't come in my building. I'm sorry. That is just one of my pet peeves. And Marty, I guess that's about all I had, but I did have a little bit of a question about where, with this synchronous and asynchronous learning, maybe where are the teachers going to be, and are there going to be office hours available for our students to maybe, Susie doesn't get the math lesson. Is Susie going to be able to maybe find an office hour time with a teacher and go into a school and get some extra help? I don't know. Is that dealt with in this plan? And then I'm going to shut up, I promise.
Thank you, Sarah. Marty?
Do I get a turn too?
Yeah, you are. I just wanted Marty to respond to Sarah's, or do you want to wait for that, Sarah?
It's up to Marty.
Why don't we wait? Why don't we wait for that comment? And let's let the directors finish their comments, and then we'll ask Marty questions. Okay, Katie, you're next.
Okay. I'm just incredibly thankful for all the work that has gone into this. I feel like, it's just super high quality, and this plan really keeps kids as the priority, and I really appreciate seeing that. And it incorporates all the social and emotional learning as a priority, and I appreciate that. It really talks about attendance and participation and how that will be addressed once in any of the models, really. The focus on learning outcomes that Michelle talked about was just really was great to hear about and understand better. This plan works to make distance learning and hybrid learning as high quality as possible for every student in this district. And I just really think that this plan is going to help us continually assess the level of risk based on the local COVID cases and this COVID-19 cases. And this is really what we're left with. And I appreciate the scale of the 4 steps and the in the hybrid model. It uses the data, and it aligns really well with the decision tree that the public health guidelines came out with from the state, and it keeps consistent with the matrix. It also is really relying on the community support. And this is what's really going to be able to help our students get more fully back into the classrooms. And that's, you know, what we've heard in emails and in the survey data from the students and parents is that is the goal. So, you know, the community support will really show us how we're going to be able to move forward. So anyway, thank you everyone who's worked on this. I really appreciate all your work. That's all I have.
Thank you, Katie. I'd like to ditto what the other board members have said about the incredible amount of work and planning that has gone into this particular reopening plan. It's an incredibly trying and stressful time for families. And am I being heard?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I'm sorry. I couldn't tell if my mic was on or not. Anyway, there is one of the things that I really appreciate about this plan is that the staggered kind of phases, to me, make the best sense of all, of getting one grade in, getting settled, coming behind that with the next grade and so forth. So I think that's going to be very helpful for parents and students alike. I do want to comment on what Sarah said. It has been my assumption, and I hope it's not a false one, that all teachers will be back in school starting day one. I just assumed that that's where teachers work best. They can do all their planning. They have all their supplies and so forth there. And I don't know, Sarah. I don't know the answer to that. I'd kind of like to hear what the board members think about that. Did I make a false assumption? Or is the plan for all teachers to return to school the first day of school, whether they have children in their classrooms or not?
I would like to see that.
Katie? Was that
Yeah.
your assumption?
Yes, that was my assumption.
Okay, Sarah?
That was my assumption, but I also, of course I have another caveat. I would like to see, I worry about our teachers who have their own little ones. If we were, let's say, all remote, or you have a high school teacher who's got, a 3-year-old or something. I don't want us to be draconian in that they should, I think, should be able to bring their child and follow all the rules, the social
Oh,
distancing.
absolutely.
But I feel like they should have the option to bring their kiddos to, I mean, there's so much extra work I think our teachers are facing. Any little thing we can do, I would like to see that. But yes,
Well,
I did have the expectation that they would be working primarily from their classrooms.
Cindy.
I guess I leave that conversation to Marty and the bargaining unit of what they've worked on. So.
Okay. Marty, would you like to respond to that?
At this point in time, we've been working on the plan, and the plan doesn't address that specific question. I like to use the phrase, I don't want to get the cart out ahead of the horse. And so, once this plan is approved, then we will work with our bargaining groups and develop the working conditions and the expectations as such.
Okay. Are there any other board comments?
Yeah, actually, before we move to a vote, I just wanted to say, just to the community, if you're listening, I don't know if it's made clear, but the purpose of this plan seems to me that we're moving towards getting every student back in school 5 days a week like normal.
Right.
Once it's safe. And whether we progress or regress through this opening plan is 100% determined by the number of cases in our community. And so if we want to get further along with this, then be safer. Everyone should help. I want to echo what Katie said. This community support in this is what will get us closer to brick and mortar in-person learning. Or the more cases we have, back to online learning. So we're all safe and you're all safe, then our kids get back to normal. Oh, also happy birthday, Kira Acker.
Oh, it's Kira's birthday. Thank you, board members, for your comments and for your attention through this very long meeting. I want to thank the public. I know that there are a lot of you out there. I can see how many participants are out there now. It's a very large number. We welcome you. We welcome you always to our board meetings, and we hope that we can soon have board meetings together in person. So the board's looking forward to that. I'd like to move on to a roll call vote. The motion is to accept this reopening plan. Director Wright?
Aye.
Director Marks?
Yes.
Director Methner?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
And Director Long votes yes. So now with that done, it's time to move on to see if we have any community comments on non-agenda items.
Madam President, at this time, we do not have any community comments on non-agenda items.
Okay, thank you, Christian. And Christian, thank you for monitoring this tonight. So now we're going to Board of Director comments. So we'll begin with Cindy.
I'll try to go fast. So I attended
Okay.
Tribal Compact's Zoom meetings. I've tried to participate in Chamber and EDC weekly meetings. This week we had an OSPI Native American Indian Education Committee meeting with Superintendent Reichdahl, which went really good. We talked about equity and government to government and where he sees his organization going with Native American education. I attended a WASDA Trust Lands virtual meeting, a DNR Encumbered Lands Zoom meeting, and I've been participating in the WASDA COVID-19 weekly meetings.
Thank you, Cindy. Anything from our legislative people?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Sandy, for reminding me of that. I do want to shout out to Director Stauffer from our WASDA legislative rep. He sent me a whole big email that I sent to Marty and Jenny today. It will be in Friday notes for you to review. And please give me a call if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you so very much for keeping us up to date with that. Director Wright?
I have primarily been communicating with friends and family, colleagues, and community members, trying to gather as much information as possible before this vote about the reopening of schools. Haven't been to any meetings or really participated in much other board activities. It's just been late nights thinking and talking about this.
Thank you. I think we've all been having some late nights. Director Methner?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Director Marks?
I'll pass as well. Thanks.
Okay. And I have only my thanks to my colleagues on the board, to the staff. I'm amazed and astounded by your wonderful work. Thank you so much to all of you. Okay, Marty, it's your turn. Can you talk?
Yeah, so basically what we've been working on is what we presented tonight. So I think that kind of puts in a nutshell what we've been working on the last, several weeks. So I do want to add one, piece to that is, in the month of June, July, we had an RFP for childcare providers. And it's really exciting to have community partners step up to the plate and help us. Really, the RFP was about childcare options, pre-COVID, but they'll really be able to help us during our COVID experience with regards to this reopening plan. I'm really excited to announce that the YMCA will be offering childcare options at Roosevelt, at Franklin, at Roosevelt, at Jefferson, Hamilton, and Dry Creek, and CNC will be offering childcare at Franklin. Now, those sites might be based on the hybrid model. We might look for all other locations for them to operate their childcare options, i.e. maybe the middle and the high school. more to follow on that. But with the challenges that come with this reopening plan, I think we're doing our part to try to find partners to be able to meet some of the needs that our families will have with regards to distance learning. So again, thank you, or a shout out to CNC and the YMCA for stepping up and being partners moving forward. I'm really excited to continue that partnership.
Okay. That moves us to our next meeting location and time.
Yeah, so our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, August 27th, 2020. The location is to be determined. This will be an in-person meeting. Again, that'll be an in-person meeting, and we will determine the location. The items for the agenda will be July financial report, adoption of the operating budget for the 2021 school year, and establish of the IMPRES funds resolution. And again, location is to be determined. We will have a in-person meeting on that evening.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? Then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Same
Happy
to
birthday,
all.
Kira.